I now call to order the July 1st, 2021 business meeting of the Clackamas County Board of Commissioners. Welcome, everybody, to our first in-person meeting without masks and without social distancing, and I am very happy we are at this state. Gary, please call the roll.
Thank you, Chair Smith. First, our staff support today, Clerk to the Board, Shannon Bays, County Counsel, Stephen Madcore. Roll call on Zoom, Commissioner Schrader.
Here.
In the hearing room, Commissioner Fischer.
Aye.
Commissioner.
Here.
Oh. Commissioner Savas.
I hear too.
Commissioner Shull.
Here.
Chair Smith.
Aye. And here. Please rise and I'll lead the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible.
Thank you very much. We are holding this meeting in person and virtually. Commissioner Schrader is on our Zoom. If you've joined us on the Zoom app for this meeting and you are interested in providing public comment, we will prompt you regarding how to do that when the time is right. Today we have 4 board discussion items on various topics of great public interest and 2 hearings. We are hoping to move along smoothly and efficiently as we conduct these proceedings. As always, the public is welcome to sign up to testify. Please specify which item you wish to speak on when registering. Registration will close 5 minutes past 10. Public comment on individual public hearings will be taken at the time of the hearing, and general public testimony will be taken afterwards. We welcome your opinions and look forward to your polite participation. With that in mind, I would like to remind all participants, including staff, all elected officials, and members of the public that Robert's Rules of Order will be enforced in this business meeting. Gary, can you introduce the first item?
Yes, Chair Smith, thank you. So the agenda has been updated from what you saw on the meeting scroll. The online version is correct. There are 4 discussion items that we are starting the meeting with. Then will be COVID updates. So Daniel and Philip, you're welcome to take a break if you'd like, because we'll have 4 items ahead of you. The first board discussion item is consideration of 2 proposed resolutions addressing fireworks in Clackamas County. Stephen Madcore, County Counsel, will present both. Go ahead, please, Stephen.
Thank you, Gary. Good morning, Commissioners. You have before you 2 resolutions for your consideration. I am going to focus primarily on the one declaring another emergency within Clackamas County. And this one is related to high temperatures and extra dry conditions. Oregon law defines emergency as a human-created or natural event or circumstance that causes or threatens widespread loss of life, injury to persons or property, human suffering, financial loss, including but not limited to fire, severe drought, and severe weather. Recently, as you know, Clackamas County and the rest of the state had been experiencing record high temperatures, resulting in extra dry conditions. Recently, we've had a number of cities within Clackamas County and the surrounding area, Portland, Wilsonville, Tualatin, and Milwaukee, ban the use of legal fireworks during the 4th of July holiday. Likewise, we have also had some other counties, such as Deschutes, Wasco, and Lane, are considering imposing similar type of bans on legal fireworks. All illegal fireworks are prohibited by state law. So this is a ban on legal fireworks. And this is in conjunction with the Forest Service prohibiting open burns, fires, pellet stoves, any type of combustion that is not like propane and self-contained within the Gifford-Pinchot National Forest, the Mount Hood National Forest, as well as the Gorge. The governor has declared a state of emergency in eastern Oregon due to wildfires out there. In addition, Chief Brown and the Board of Directors of the Clackamas Fire District No. 1 have requested that the Board of County Commissioners impose a ban on legal fireworks during the 4th of July holiday. What you have before you is an emergency declaration. It's a resolution similar to the ones that you did for COVID, similar to the ones that you did for the ice storm, similar to the ones that you did for debris management, similar to the ones that you have done for the wildfires. This one prohibits the use of fireworks, legal fireworks, within unincorporated portions of Clackamas County. Our code does not apply to cities unless they adopt it, but like I said, Milwaukee has already imposed it, Wilsonville has already imposed it, and I understand a number of other cities are contemplating and considering it as well. But this would apply to unincorporated Clackamas County, and what it does, it prohibits the use of legal fireworks, and the date we have set is up till July 10th. The reason being is the forecast looks like it's going to be hot until that time at least. You could extend it, you could shorten it, depending upon what the weather does. It is at your discretion. Currently, we have it dated to July 10th. And what it also does, it imposes a $500 civil penalty. It prohibits open burning, which I believe is already prohibited anyway. It urges the public to celebrate the 4th of July holiday in a safe and orderly manner and without resorting to the use of fireworks. It also discourages the public from engaging in any activities that, if not carefully performed, could result in fires, such as smoking, open burning of fires, use of heat generating or other spark emitting vehicles, tools, and implements. It also directs that the county will coordinate education, implementation, response, and recovery with the Clackamas County Fire Defense Board, Clackamas Fire District Number 1, Tualatin Valley Fire and Rescue, other fire districts and municipal fire districts within the county itself. Efforts will be made to fully educate county residents on the dangers of improper and careless use of fireworks and other spark and heat emitting devices, and to reduce the risk of fire danger presented by use of those activities. Like I said, the resolution is currently slated to, if passed, it would remain in effect until July 10th, 2021. And that is what we have for the board's consideration. Happy to take any questions that you may have.
And we have a commissioner in the queue, and it will be implemented upon passage. Is that correct?
That is correct, Chair.
Commissioner Savas.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Well, 48 hours ago, we were just discussing this, and I want to thank County Council and the board support for directing staff to craft 2 resolutions because we weren't sure what we were going to do and what we had support with. So I want to just mention that County Council incorporated a number of the concerns I had about the messaging and public messaging and efforts. So I think we've done a great job, and I just want to just share with my colleagues and others that I think the first resolution, the ban itself, incorporates all the elements that the second one was intended. So I'm inclined here today to recommend we simply adopt the ban, the first resolution.
The what?
The first resolution that County Council just spoke to. So there's 2.
I think it's the second one listed in our email. That's why I was a little bit confused. But
That's right.
yes, the one that Mr. Madcore referred to, listing
that
the
includes-
ORSs, that gives us the authority to do this action.
Yeah, just for clarification, the one that imposes the ban on legal fireworks.
And the $500 fine. Okay. There are several commissioners in the queue. Anything else, Paul?
Just, again, appreciation. I think that we've learned a lot in the last 48 hours, and it seems to be of considerable concern, judging by all the input we've received, and I'll let someone else talk about the magnitude of that input, and I appreciate our fire officials being here and our cooperation with all the emergency management groups and organizations that help and provide this. And we need to get the message out that we are putting our communities at risk in the event of a fire. So anything we can do to prevent it is extremely important. So I will pass it on to
Thank
others.
you, Commissioner Savas. Gary Schmidt.
We have 1 speaker you have allowed. Chair, would you like that person now, or if the commissioners to ask questions?
Commissioners, would you defer to our speaker? Is that okay? Yes. Gary?
All right, so the chair is allowed Chief Jim Davis. He is the chair of the Clackamas Fire Defense Board for Clackamas County to speak. This is not a public hearing, but the chair is allowing Chief Davis. So Chief Davis, welcome, and please go ahead.
Thank you. And good morning, Board of County Commissioners. I'm reaching out today as the chair of the Clackamas County Fire Defense Board and as fire chief of the Canby Fire District. All fire districts and city departments within Clackamas County have been extremely busy this past week with the high temperatures, responding to numerous fires during 115-degree temperature, as well as treating numerous medical emergencies, as you've seen on the news. As I speak to you now, fire agencies from around the Portland region are fighting fires in Dufur, Oregon, outside of Dufur, Oregon. And this Friday, we have crews leaving from Clackamas County to Southern Oregon. As we approach the 4th of July holiday, we all want to ensure that our communities celebrate in a way that is meaningful and yet safe. With the recent stretch of dry weather and forecast to continue prolonged elevated temperatures, there is significant risk for a very large-scale fire to occur within Clackamas County. As stated in the staff report, fire districts do not have the right to ban fireworks or to enforce the use of any fireworks. The state, the counties, and the cities do have the sole authority to enforce. The position of the Clackamas County Fire Defense Board is to educate the citizens on how dry the conditions are and not to use fireworks. Clackamas County and the region is extremely dry, and we will experience increased fire during the 4th of July. We do understand that cities and counties do have the right to do what they feel is best for their communities, and we support that. The Fire Defense Board has prepared the same message to all of our citizens throughout Clackamas County in regards to asking them, pleading with them not to use any fireworks during the 4th of July. Moving forward, we do encourage the County Council to start reviewing now all your ordinances as we and look into enacting some sort of change in the ordinance on fireworks as we go into next year. Because all indications are, and every year, fire agencies do experience an increase of fire and medical emergencies on the 4th of July. Thank you very much, unless you have any questions for me.
Jim, I have a question. You say every year fires happen because of fireworks. Were you able to determine whether those causes of fireworks were legal fireworks or illegal fireworks purchased maybe in another state and brought into Oregon?
Our experience has been both. Obviously, the illegal fireworks are far worse than the safe and sane fireworks coming into the region, as they go up in the air and many times will go in different directions, start trees and brush on fire, whereas the legal fireworks are more sustained out in the streets. And my experience has been that as long as we have people supervising, adults supervising the use of fireworks in a safe and sane manner, that they are much less dangerous than the illegal fireworks that are brought in.
And I'll just remind folks, and please stay here, Jim, that this is not a ban. This is not a ban on retail sales. And I am not prepared to go there, and I'm not prepared to go there in the next year either. And there's many topics that I'm going to address from my other commissioners on this. I really appreciate you coming forward today, and I see you have some other folks in the audience with you for support. Thank you. I appreciate our fire folks getting out there as first responders and responding to these situations. I just wish we had more funding available to support you and the other police and fire agencies in the county who will bear the brunt of the possibility of more fires. Thanks a lot, Jim.
Thank you.
Yes. We have two other commissioners in the queue. Commissioner Fischer, well, you're up.
Yeah, thank you, Chair Smith. Appreciate the conversation, appreciate the hard work of staff, appreciate our first responders, our sheriff, our fire chiefs, all the conversations, as Commissioner Savas mentioned, over the last 48 hours. I think the most meaningful conversation that really helped put this into perspective for me was when I talked with Clackamas Fire Chief Nick Brown, who really supported us taking this measure. And so when my fire chief gives us a recommendation, I take that very, very seriously. We as a board had other issues when it came to our marijuana regulations, when we were debating whether we go with concentrates or extracts and how we regulate in agricultural rural areas versus industrial areas. And you know what? I listened to our fire professionals because they are the ones that really understand and know where the extreme risks can be. And I very much support declaring an emergency for this season and banning fireworks. And I really appreciate, Stephen, your hard work in really defining the bigger picture in this declaration. I think it's an excellent communication tool. The one thing that I would also like to message, I had a conversation with Sheriff Brandenburg this morning. Every 4th of July, our 911 CCOM is inundated with calls. The more that we can message, please call for life and
Safety.
life and safety, not for my neighbors blowing off some fireworks. We really need to message that. I don't think we have to put that in the resolution or have a motion, but just direction. I think everybody's nodding to our PGA to really emphasize that. We are already going to be, we've been inundated every 4th of July, but let's really try to keep that in check.
You talk about being inundated. The Board of County Commissioners has received over 630 emails banning fireworks. And that doesn't account for all of our personal emails that we've gotten. It doesn't account for any social media that we've just been bombarded on this issue. Holy cow, I've not seen anything like it in all the issues we've dealt with since January, even the ice storm. Oh, they didn't have electricity to send emails, so that was the issue on this. We have 2 more commissioners in the queue. Commissioner Scholl, you're up.
Yes. Mr. Madcore, on the resolution option that includes the declaration of an emergency, the $500 civil penalty for the use of what's referred to as legal fireworks, is that the same amount as a civil penalty for the use of illegal fireworks? And secondly, if we pass this resolution today, do you foresee any problem from the retail community about the sale of fireworks? Even though the sale of fireworks is not being banned by this resolution, do you see any potential legal problem from that?
Commissioner Scholl, I don't know if the $500 is the same for use of illegal fireworks versus prohibited legal fireworks. This is consistent with state statute, though. If the county were to prohibit it, it does provide for a $500 civil penalty. I could get you an answer by that
I
later
wonder,
today.
Jim Davis, would you know the answer to the question? The penalty for the use of illegal fireworks, is it $500 as well? Would you come forward? Thank you.
I'm sorry, I do not know.
The question was, in our resolution, it calls for a civil penalty fine of $500 for the use of legal fireworks during the ban. What is the penalty for the use of illegal fireworks, regardless of a ban?
I believe every jurisdiction, every police agency has their own fine on those, especially for illegal fireworks.
Yeah, I had heard at one point, Commissioner Scholl, one jurisdiction set up to $2,500 someplace, but I can't substantiate. Commissioner Fischer, you have a comment on that?
So under Oregon law, it could result into it's Class B misdemeanor, which could result into a fine of up to $2,500 per violation.
There we
And
go.
a civil penalty up to $500.
Good, okay. Thank you for that additional information. Commissioner Scholl,
Yes,
anything
and
else?
yes, Mr. Madcore, did you have a?
And the second part of your question, sir, is about the impact upon retailers. The resolution before you does not impact retailers. It impacts the users. Clark County did prohibit sale. Portland recently prohibited sale as well. This does not do that. This prohibits the use.
Okay, and my final question is for the county administrator. Do we have the capability, if this resolution is signed today, to get it out quick enough so that the people of the county realize that it's been signed and that this ban is in effect?
Absolutely, yes, Commissioner. We will get it out as soon as you vote here. We'll get the word out to the community, yes.
Okay, thank you.
I believe that yesterday, upon my request, that we have teed up staff with statements that are already written now, ready to be sent out as soon as we vote on this, because I wanted it in the media, and I want to send notification as soon as we could get that. And boy, I tell you, our staff has been something. They're just right on it. Commissioner Schrader, you're in the queue.
I'm going to apologize if there's a bit of background noise here. I wanted to mention that the Oregon Department of Forestry and the State Fire Marshal, because there's an emergency declaration at the state level, basically they can utilize personnel, equipment, and facilities from other state agencies to respond to wildfires. Also, evidently, the Oregon National Guard could deploy firefighting resources should anything happen. I think under the circumstances that we've been dealing with, extreme heat, and in particular, our past experiences with significant wildfire damage, that we really do need to move ahead with a resolution. I know that, Chair, I think you're going to mention that we got a letter from our delegation, our legislative delegation from Salem, as well as, you said, over 600 emails from folks who are highly concerned about this. Normally, we wouldn't go there, but I really see no recourse because of the circumstances that we're facing with the extreme heat and the tinderbox kind of environment that we are now living in at this time. I'm glad that it's through July 10th. I think we can reevaluate at that time. My one question is there a place for people to, not to the retailer, but if they've purchased fireworks and they want to turn them in, is there any place for that to happen?
Thank you for your comments on this. Yes, I'm prepared to address the letter from legislators in my comments. Regarding the return of fireworks, that would be problematic in my estimation, Stephen Madcore.
I don't think we have any plan for having.
We have no
yeah.
plan for that, and I would not entertain we going down that path. Thank you. Anything else, Commissioner Schrader?
Yeah, I have heard some cities are doing that, but but there you go. But my issue is then to also tell people, if you have purchased them and you're are really, and we can't use them at this point, please make sure that you store them safely somewhere.
Yeah, because
you do not want to store them in an area where you could have high heat and bad things happening. And I will leave that to our fire folks, maybe to help get that information out, that if you have purchased them, what are the storage requirements so you don't put yourself at risk for fire inside or outside of your home or area of living. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Schrader. Commissioner Savas, you're in the queue again.
Yeah, Commissioner Schrader raises a good point. I did hear that the city of Happy Valley, for example, was doing a buyback or return. So I think that might be something that maybe we ask one of our fire officials here this morning to say, well, if someone were to return them or drop them off at a fire station, would they be accepted? I would assume the answer is a strong yes, but maybe I'm wrong.
Chief Davis, please comment.
Thank you. The answer to that is yes. We
You
do
would
have.
accept fireworks, unused fireworks.
I'm speaking for Canby Fire Department. We accept unused fireworks. I know Tualta Valley Fire and Rescue does. Clackamas County Fire District 1 is teamed up with Clackamas County Sheriff's Office for some drop points for fireworks, and you can access that on the Facebook sites.
But it's not a buyback.
It's not a buyback.
It's
Absolutely
just a
not.
depository. Let's be clear on that. Thank you very much.
Yep.
Yeah, I did have one other thing I wanted to mention. Thank you, Chief. And that was that I did not realize that the resolution we have before us today declaring an emergency did not include a ban on fireworks sales. So my other question is, what is the state law on youth buying fireworks? Is there a minimum age requirement? I lost track of that because I do know that some fires have been set by youth. I mean, not intentionally, but by accident. So I don't know, is there an age limit? So when someone walks up to a fireworks stand in Clackamas County, is there a certain age requirement to be sold fireworks?
I really do not have the answer for that. I do know that they're sold in Fred Meyer's as retail, and I have seen some kids purchasing fireworks in Fred Meyer's, but I do not know the regulations at the fireworks stands.
Okay,
It's 18.
it's 18.
And that's, yep.
Okay, thank you.
You are quite adept at that computer this morning. Keep it up, Commissioner Fischer. Thank you.
It's good to practice a little law while I'm commissioning today.
Okay. I have received many communications. I've been on the phone almost all night and part of this morning as well. Not all night, but part of the evening. People of concern. I've heard from people across the board on this. 98%, I think, of our 600-plus emails are in support of the ban. But, you know, I've heard some folks that aren't in support of the ban, and I feel that they should have a voice here today. And those are the people who are in the business of selling them, because they have abided by the law and they have made the investment in this, and they have asked not to ban them. And I had a very lengthy email by a lady named Carly Richardson, and she says, my fear is that if legal fireworks are banned, it would cause more people to light illegal fireworks in some ways to make a point. And we do run that risk. But I remind those people who want to go out and do such behavior is that there is a civil responsibility in doing so. And I can cite many examples of wildfires that were set, that these people went to jail, and the fines are in the millions of dollars. So you know what, folks, it's only 1 or 2 days. I really urge people not to do that. And then she also makes a point, which I didn't know this, is that fireworks are only available to be sold in Oregon for 14 days between June 23rd and July 6th. So this will significantly impact their business. And the only thing that I can say is keep them for maybe New Year's Eve when it's raining and snowing and there's not the risk of a fire danger. That might be a fun thing to do. We got a letter addressed to the Board of County Commissioners from some of our Clackamas County senators and legislators. And there is a Clackamas County caucus, but it was not penned by Clackamas County caucus because it was not unanimous in its support of a ban. And I will read some of the statements from there. The 2021 legislature has been desperately trying to address the devastations of last year's fire seasons, and in so doing, they are asking this commission to make a strong statement regarding the use of legal fireworks, and they want us to ban them. And they cite many of the reasons, and their reasons are good, but I have some issues with the legislature in this state, and I'm going to read a statement. I do intend on supporting the ban today, but this ban is not going to come without cost. And I can outline for you why these bans may not have the intended effect of all of the 600 and some emails that the people are writing into. Late yesterday, we received a letter from 9 legislators representing parts of Clackamas County calling us to ban the fireworks at least through the 4th of July weekend. You can see we've done it through the 10th. 2 of the legislators serve on the legislators' wildfire committees that worked the session to address the 2020 fires, but one of those legislators did not sign this letter. Our commission can certainly put a ban in place, but it's important that we realize the action would only apply to unincorporated areas of Clackamas County. Without similar bans in other cities and neighboring counties, we'll be left with a patchwork of regulations. As we learned last year, wildfires don't care about city, county, or state boundaries. For this to be truly effective, all other jurisdictions should be implementing similar bans, and I do not see that happening. Fortunately, here in Clackamas County, most residents I've spoken to have already decided not to use fireworks, including my families and friends of their families, because most of my neighbors were severely impacted by the wildfire situation and will choose to celebrate in other ways. This goes beyond fireworks, people. Already this fire season, Clackamas County has had 2 wildfires, one in May, where their homes were evacuated in the Redland area, and just this week, the forest outside Estacada, which I have pictures. Neither of those fires were caused by fireworks, legal or illegal. The bigger issue, as I see it, is enforcement. Putting a ban in place today won't solve the problem. Let me be very clear. If our police and sheriffs in the region don't have the funding to necessarily enforce it, and that includes our fire departments as well. Our sheriff's office is focused on community corrections, jail beds, mental health patrol, and investigations. Enforcing a fireworks ban is a new territory for us. And I'd like to see the state representatives who signed this letter step up as a partner and start funding the initiatives they place on counties for us to perform their work for them. They had over 6 months in a legislative session to send fire mitigation money to the counties, and they failed. They also want us to send out the police to arrest people. At the same time, they have defunded our community corrections and space for jail beds. Governor Brown listed the ban on masks yesterday. I was in attendance with her, and we spoke frankly. But in our jails, we still have to implement distancing and face masks, which means single cell occupancy. That means we have no room to arrest people and put them in there. That is additionally a funding issue that I call on these legislators who signed this letter, and they are. Representative Janelle Bynum, get busy. Senator Bill Cannemer, get busy. Representative Mark Meek, who is the instigator of this letter, who did not have all the consensus of the Clackamas Caucus to send it, get busy. Representative Courtney Neuron, Representative Rachel Prusak, Representative Jeff Reardon, Representative Andrea Salinas, and Representative Anna Williams, you are in the power structure and leadership in the legislature. Get busy and protect your county with funding. And I cannot make any stronger statement than that. Now, we have a motion to consider, and I will consider, we do have a subject to, I will consider a motion at this time.
Chair Smith, I move we approve the Resolution B, which is the approval of a resolution declaring an emergency as a result of extreme temperatures and dry conditions and ordering measures to reduce the risk of fires by human activities.
Second.
Commissioner Schrader, would you please mute yourself?
Second.
Thank you. Commissioner Schrader, please mute yourself until it's time to vote. It's a little bit difficult. Commissioner Savas has made a motion on this resolution as extreme heat and dry, and Commissioner Scholl has seconded the motion. Do I hear any further comments on this? Shannon, hearing none, please call the poll.
Commissioner Fischer?
Aye.
Commissioner Scholl?
Aye.
Commissioner Savas?
Aye.
Commissioner Schrader?
Aye.
Chair Smith?
Aye, motion passes 5-0, and our staff is already busy getting it out to people. Thank you, Stephen Madcourt, for your fine work on penning both these resolutions at the last minute. Your writing was excellent, and Gary Schmidt and all of our PGA staff, our policy advisors, everybody just really picked up the ball and went with this, and I'm very pleased with our performance on that. Gary, what's up next?
Thank you, Chair. Next, a discussion item is approval of addendum number 9 to resolution number 2020-14, declaring a local state of emergency. Stephen Madcourt, County Council, will present. Go ahead, please.
Thank you, Gary. Hello, commissioners again. This is addendum number 9 to resolution 2020-14. Resolution 2020-14 was passed back in March of 2020. That was the beginning of the COVID pandemic. We had 8 addendums extending that, imposing additional emergency measures during that time period. What this one does, it lifts all of those measures that we implemented, that you implemented during the pendency of the emergency. It keeps 3 in place, though, which are subject to revisit at any time. The board currently has extended the emergency to December 31st of 2021. And the only measures that will continue until that time period are going to be one that provides for permit extensions for land use approvals that were provided that needed extensions and that weren't completed as a result of the COVID pandemic. That's going to continue for a bit more to see if folks are actually interested and eligible for that. The other one provides for leniency for public meetings law and things along those lines for Zoom meetings and things like that. That also has been implemented into state law with the last legislative session, but this gives it broader leeway here. The third one allows for a certain sense of flexibility to waive certain zoning requirements, such as taking up parking spots for outdoor dining and things along those lines. So that's left in there to transition those types of uses back into their approved uses. So those things are all going to remain in existence. All the other emergency measures that you had about waiving fees and late fees and emergency procurement and things along those lines, those are all going to be rescinded. So these are the only three emergency measures that remained in place. And the measures remaining in place to ensure that we're able to capture any type of funding that might be available during that time period and to just make sure that we're not doing anything too drastic at this particular time. So the emergency still is declared. We're just lifting all of the prohibitions that the board imposed.
Excellent. Mr. Madcore, do the commissioners have any questions of the presenter today? I'll call for a motion.
I move we approve addendum number 9 to resolution number 2020-14, declaring a local state of emergency and declaring emergency measures.
Second?
Commissioner Scholl's made the motion. Commissioner Savas has seconded. I will just mention that is the ninth addendum to the COVID emergency, and I look forward to the 10th. We can totally end everything, but we're almost there. Any further discussion? Seeing none, Shannon, please call the poll.
Commissioner Schrader?
Aye.
Commissioner Fischer?
Aye.
Commissioner Scholl?
Aye.
Commissioner Savas?
Aye.
Chair Smith?
Aye, motion passes 5-0. Thank you, Stephen. Gary, what's up next?
Next is approval of a resolution supporting Clackamas County's commitment to economic recovery post-pandemic. Chair Smith, you are the main presenter.
Thank you very much. It has occurred to me that as we come out of this pandemic and the governor has lifted restrictions, we still have much work to do. And we need to go through an economic recovery, and some people are calling this the pandemic recession. And there's this, it has a lot of elements into the economic recovery in Clackamas County. I urge everybody to read this. The Board of County Commissioners recognizes the need to position not only Clackamas County for the state as an attractive, competitive place for business, as Oregon is the last state to come out and lift restrictions. We urge that is encouraged to open daycare, schools, camps, recreation activities, and other outlets to full capacity, including our jail, to allow our children to engage with each other and provide working parents with alternatives that they need to return to the workforce and on-site employment. And I submit that is one of the larger barriers to getting our businesses back and opening is finding a suitable daycare. We will, as a commission, continue to explore the federal and state funds to use efforts to support our businesses. And finally, the Board of County Commissioners calls on the state to dedicate additional funds and resources to support the development and the implementation of a plan, as described above, to ensure a positive future and a forward direction for our businesses and community members. With that in mind, do any of the commissioners have any comments?
Yeah. So, Chair Smith?
Yes.
I didn't see in here jails, so I'm curious where that is.
That jails came out of my mind when I mentioned full capacity.
Okay.
It's not written in the resolution. I'm just making an additional point, which I have the right to do.
Okay, I would be concerned just to require, I think we need to listen to our public health professionals when it comes to things like institutional settings, jails, given that people may not be vaccinated and given that they're have their freedoms taken away and put someplace, I don't think we should facilitate having them be exposed to
Well,
COVID.
I merely point out the difficulties. Every action that you take on this ban, for instance, there's always an opposite and unpredictable reaction that happens, and one of them is implementing the ban with suitable law enforcement professionals. I'm not saying it's not going to be done. I'm saying it's going to be extremely difficult, and you understand the point I'm trying to make on that.
Yeah, I just want to make sure that the public understands that this effort is not contrary to our public health officials' advice.
Thank you very
Want
much
to-
for that. I appreciate Commissioner Fisher. Any other comments? I'll entertain a motion.
I move we approve a resolution supporting Clackamas County's commitment to economic recovery post-pandemic.
Second.
It has been moved by Commissioner Scholl and seconded by Commissioner Savas. Any further discussion on this? Seeing none, Shannon, please call the poll.
Commissioner Savas,
Aye.
Commissioner Scholl,
Aye.
Commissioner Schrader,
Aye.
Commissioner Fisher,
Aye.
Chair Smith.
Aye, motion passes 5-0. Thank you very much, Commissioners. Gary, what's up next?
Next is approval of a resolution affirming Clackamas County's commitment to history and culture. Chair Smith, you will also present this one.
I've been working on this for months and months and months. And to me, this is a very fun thing because we have such a rich, diverse culture and history in Clackamas County. I want our history to be an important tourism component. And we have many opportunities as we go across the county and looking at our historical structures. We have the Museum of the Oregon Territory that overlooks the Willamette Falls and our new Blue Heron Development Site that the Grand Ronde Tribe has purchased for development. That's very exciting to me. We have the locks that has been now, approved with the legislature's blessings and funding to repair the locks and try to get them open. And to me, being born in Oregon City and now working in Oregon City was the first city established west of the Mississippi ever, and Oregon is one of the oldest territories west of the Mississippi. So there's a lot of important aspects to Clackamas County. And in doing so, we're going to be able to move forward with our history development on this and have, as people come in to visit Clackamas County, hopefully they will stay here and spend money here and take a look at our historical sites moving forward on this. Any further comments?
Yep. Chair.
Yes, Commissioner Savas, sorry, I didn't see your light.
Yep. Thank you. And maybe Commissioner Schrader may want to comment. We both serve on the Willamette Falls Legacy Project, and what we have since the Grand Ronde tribes have purchased the property on that side of the river. We have really had a lot of communication with the tribes in this area, and even as recent as yesterday morning, we had significant discussion, and I appreciate their inclusion in this resolution. There is history here. I think a lot of citizens in this area will find fascinating that precedes the settlement in this area, dating back centuries. So I just want to acknowledge the Native Americans, the people that are indigenous to the land, and that I'm just grateful they're included in this as far as our history and culture. Thank you.
Those are great comments. Commissioner Fisher, I'm not sure if it's you or Commissioner Schrader because you're both on the same button.
Oh, my gosh.
I
Well,
know, that's the reason for my delay, just letting you know.
That's all right. I just want to read this one little, it's very short, but I don't know if we're going to read the whole resolution. Are we going to read the whole
Go ahead.
resolution? Well, just this section that Commissioner Savas is referring to, whereas Clackamas County affirms that in an era of globalization, history helps us to remember our cultural diversity as well as the experiences and contributions of previous generations, and its understanding develops mutual respect and renewed dialogue. And then the next whereas is whereas Clackamas County is named for the Clackamas people who lived here and also the homeland of the Chinook, Tualatin, Kalapaya, I believe I said that right, Malala, and other tribes and bands who lived and visited here from the time immemorial and who continue to live here. So I just love the large perspective of all of this land. And if there's something that is so incredibly special, there's a lot special about Clackamas County, but our geographical landscape is phenomenal. And we are the stewards, along with every person that has in the past, will in the future, and currently resides and uses this land. So it's pretty awesome.
Yeah, I'm glad you're as excited as I am, because this really does ring my bell, just letting you know. Commissioner Schrader.
Yes, thank you, Chair Smith. This is actually remarkable. Thank you so much for bringing this forward. Yes, Commissioner Savas and I had conversations with the Willamette Falls Legacy Project folks, including Oregon City, Metro, the tribes, and we do want to recognize that there is millennia of history at the locks. Again, we are part of that, but we are the recent folks who are part of that history, that has been a gathering place for many years and is truly a sacred spot for our tribes. I also want to thank you because I think this is going to give the opportunity for our county to revive something that we had actually quite a record of doing, and that is also the notion of historic preservation. At one point in our planning department, we had a very robust program, and we have throughout this county identified those structures that are of historic significance, not the least of which is the oldest cabin in the state of Oregon, which is now at our forestry spot.
Hopkins Force.
Yes. And I would suggest under the umbrella of this ordinance that we take a look at that again, that we find our information, we take a look and see what structures are there, that we take a look and see how we help preserve them. And I'm not talking in a regulatory way, but we used to have fabulous programs that enabled us to provide information to our constituents and those who are interested in history of older structures and buildings. And it is about museums, obviously, and maintaining that history. But I also think it's an opportunity for us to work with our constituents, to work with our residents who have a deep knowledge of their properties and the history. And as you know, I lived on Three Rivers Farm for over 30 years. It is a National Trust property on the National Trust for Historic Preservation, preserving a 1910 farmhouse, a 1904 Western style barn, and probably one of the few extant windmills that has been kept in good shape through the years. So this is something I hope this will spur on those people that we know, those folks who are interested in this. And we do have a historic preservation board, and it would be very nice to revitalize and to really beef up those programs. Although I know that we have a constrained budget, so it would have to be done very frugally. So thank you. Thank you for this resolution, Chair. I appreciate it.
Well, I appreciate your support, and I appreciate all my commissioners' support on this. We've been working on this for quite some time. Any other comments? I'll entertain a motion.
I move we approve a resolution affirming Clackamas County's commitment to history and culture.
Second.
It's been, motion's been made by Commissioner Schull and seconded by Commissioner Fischer. Thank you. Any further discussion? Seeing none, Shannon, please call the poll.
Commissioner Schull,
Aye.
Commissioner Fisher,
Aye.
Commissioner Savas,
Aye.
Commissioner Schrader,
Aye.
Chair Smith.
Aye, the motion has passed 5-0. Thank you very much. Gary, what's up next?
Thank you, Chair. That ends the board discussion items. Next is your final COVID-19 update that staff will present to you, Commissioners. We have Daniel Nibauer, Interim Director of Disaster Management, and Philip Mason-Joyner, County Public Health Director. Please go ahead.
Thank you for waiting for us to do our business.
Absolutely. Good morning, Chair Smith and Commissioners. Shannon, like usual, if you can put up the presentation, and Daniel will get us started.
Sure, I'll start on the next slide. Looking at our current case and death data. Since the 22nd of June, we've had an additional 5 cases. Unfortunately, no deaths. Multnomah and Washington County had 162 additional cases and 127 additional cases, respectively, as well as 1 death and 3 deaths, respectively. Next slide. We look at our case count by week, and we continue on a very nice downward slope, which is great to see. Next slide. If we look at our patient counts, it is evening, unfortunately, we would like to see it obviously continue to go down. It is of concern because we have seen additional heat admissions into the hospital, as well as an odd uptick of traumas as well. So hospitals are very full at the moment, and I'm sure you've seen, we've asked individuals if to go to urgent care or to their primary care physician if they are experiencing it, rather than go immediately to the emergency department.
So Daniel, the
uptick of
uptick in
traumas?
hospitals was not necessarily because of COVID, but extreme heat.
Correct.
And I've read some statistics on that, and it's alarming, just alarming the effect, the health effects that the heat had on people.
Yeah, so it is where our hospitals are stressed. Of course, COVID patients don't help, but it's not simply because of COVID.
Thank you.
Did you say heat and trauma?
Yes.
Okay, so like what, car accidents or?
I think it's a full range. I don't have the specifics on what types of trauma. They
Commissioner
just-
Savas would like to make a comment.
Just saw that go up.
Yeah, one thing I've noticed, and I've heard this nationally as well, is that though the number of cases has dropped significantly into, levels, back in the last 16 months, or similar levels where it got that low, but the hospitalization rate is still a little high. I guess it's the severity of this particular variant. I'm understanding, I'm hearing, that's contributing to the higher number proportionally of hospitalizations in relationship to the actual case counts, which are falling. So in essence, the simple form is everything's falling, but the hospitalizations is falling, but not as dramatically as everything else. So those must be more severe cases, presumably. That's all I have.
Thanks. Daniel, go ahead.
Okay. And next slide. So just a little slide on kind of ages in relation. Since January 1st, ages by death and by hospitalization. On the left side is the occurrences of death by age since January 1st, and you can see it tilts very heavily to those in 60s, 70s, and 80s. However, on the right side is hospitalizations, and that's a little bit more even in terms of who it affects. The very young, not so much, but it's a little more even across the board, which kind of supports our hospitalization data that shows it's not dipping quite as much. There.
Thank you, Daniel. This week, Clackamas County hit the milestone of 240,000 Clackamas County residents getting vaccinated. So that's a really nice goal to meet. We've reached a point where 50% of our entire population in the county is now fully vaccinated, with another 7%, another 7% that is in between getting their first and second dose. So when you compare Clackamas County to the state around the original goal of folks age 18 and older getting to 70%, we are currently sitting at 67%. The state is at 69.5%, with a little over 16,000 more Oregonians to get vaccinated to reach that goal. Next slide, please, Shannon. On Tuesday, we discussed with you during your work session the lifting of restrictions and what that means. So the risk framework around low risk, moderate risk, high risk, that goes away. It's really lovely to be here without a mask on, knowing that I'm fully vaccinated, and we, confidence in this vaccine, that it's safe, it's effective, and that, enough members of our community have been vaccinated that we can feel protected. For those who are not vaccinated, we still do recommend following the public health precautions that we've been saying all along. For businesses, the pressure on them around following the different restrictions have been lifted. The requirement to verify vaccination is no longer. And we are working with our school districts already to prepare for the fall for in-person instruction for all of our kids 5 days a week. So this is all good news. We are paying attention globally, nationally, issues around the variant. The Delta variant is getting a lot of attention in the news. This is a particular concern for communities that have really low vaccination rates. This is what viruses do when they linger in the community. They look for ways to survive. They look for, they try to mutate in order to stay alive, and the mutations are more infectious. So the good news is that we're in the monitoring phase of that Delta variant. Certainly if our vaccination rates were much lower than they are in Clackamas County, we'd be a little bit more worried than we are today, but No cause for alarm here in Clackamas County at this time on that front. I'm sorry, Shannon, that was the last. I didn't tell you. Next slide. But that's the information on that. The United States does think that this Delta variant, it will impact the unvaccinated, and it will be the primary COVID-19 dominant spread in the or dominant variant in the country later this summer. My last couple of slides are the slides I show every single week with the Board of County Commissioners. All summer long, we will continue to make the vaccine available. We are in Canby at the Clackamas Town Center in the mall. In Malala and in Oregon City every single week. We'll be there all summer long. We also are regularly providing the vaccine here at our clinic on campus. And then we are providing pop-up clinics, so opportunities for folks to contact us. We'll go anywhere in the county. We have mobile go teams that can go out and make the vaccine available at events this summer and at workplaces. Also, our pharmacies, pretty much every single community in Clackamas County has pharmacies, and they have the vaccine now available. So it's certainly not a supply issue. The vaccine's available. Really want to encourage folks to get vaccinated if they haven't yet. And in terms of how to contact the county and get in touch with us, feel free to check out our website. Our call center is still up and running. It'll be up and running all summer long, 503-655-8224. Or you can email us at covidvaccine@clackamas.us. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Any questions for the presenters? Thank you for your presentations, both of you. Commissioner Fischer?
Thank you. Couple questions came to my mind. I'm curious, I know in the beginning of our efforts to vaccinate in certain institutional settings, like long-term care facilities, there was a heavy push to get people vaccinated. I'm interested now that so much time has gone by, is there a process when new residents may come into a long-term care facility or new staff? Is there a systemized process to keep that access to the vaccine? And I'm thinking of not only long-term care facilities, but also our correctional facilities as well.
Yes. For long-term care facilities, they've worked it out with the state because the state regulates those facilities that on a weekly basis. They have a mobile team that goes to those sites for new employees or new residents to get vaccinated if they haven't already or if they choose to. They can also make a request on an ongoing basis if they need it more frequently. So that's been well communicated with the facilities and something that's been happening now for months.
And then corrections?
So the jail, they have a jail medical team here at Clackamas County, and they receive COVID vaccinations, and they're available for staff and folks that are in the jail to be able to access it. And that's it's ongoing available. Yep.
Thank you, Philip.
Any other questions for the presenters? Gary?
All right, so we will end these weekly COVID updates unless or until such time as is necessary, then we'll come back. But for now, we're done. Thank you, Daniel and Philip and Nancy Pryor, for all your presentations the last 15 months. Greatly appreciated. Philip, thank you. Daniel, can you stay for just a second? And Nancy, if you want to join. So the commissioners, quickly to add, going to the heat, you've received several inquiries from farms in Clackamas County who unfortunately are losing or have lost their crops because of the extreme heat. And they're asking if Clackamas County would declare an emergency related to the heat because that would potentially allow them to do some action on the crops they've lost. This is complicated, so Nancy and Philip have background on this that want to update you and those listening, so whoever.
Actually, it's Daniel.
Daniel, I'm sorry. Did I call you Philip? Sorry. Daniel, sorry.
So, yeah, Daniel, you want to start?
Sure. I'll start. I'll start with I have calls into the state right now to get information because it is a complicated process associated with drought declaration. But the short of it that I've discovered so far is initially, even if there was a federal declaration for this, they would be looking at the farmers' insurance and the insurance they have for the recovery of that first. Second, it is a federal declaration that they're looking at that would potentially provide funds. Historically, what we've seen is it's more low-interest loans than it is doing funds. There is not a trigger. So in a typical disaster, there's a county declaration and then a state declaration, a federal declaration. That is not how this declaration goes. So by the county declaring does not trip anything that expedites this process. It's federal agencies assessing data over a few months to see the long-term repercussions in doing this. I'm finding out right now is the state starting to take action? How are they communicating with USDA? And is that the process that will continue to follow this year? Don't have answers because even at the state level, they're finding out it's more complicated than it has been previously.
Wow.
So no solid answers. Unfortunately, it looks like a county declaration does not help expedite anything. But I will have more information soon.
Nancy, you have any further comments?
Yeah, the only thing I would like to include in that is, too, we don't want to set some false expectations by doing a declaration at this time until we have more information from the state and the federal government, because there could be expectations that, FEMA has money to give you, and that simply isn't true in this case, at least at this point.
That's true.
It would be a USDA declaration of funding. It wouldn't be through FEMA.
So somehow we need to go around the back door, so to speak, and propel maybe our state leaders to consider an agricultural declaration, in consultation with the USDA. It is bothersome. I had about a dozen blueberry plants and lost them. Commissioner Savas as well. Everybody's had berries, but the people who try to make their living from farming, I'm glad I'm no longer in the Christmas tree business, because many of those trees, because the growth on them is still tender during this time. They haven't hardened off like they would have normally in August. And so many of our Christmas trees, I was driving through Clackamas County, and whole sides of them are just burned. Mm-hmm. And it's so sad. And it's just going to continue and continue. We probably won't know the full effect of the agricultural losses until it comes time to harvest the crops. And that's ongoing. Mm-hmm. But thank you both for coming forward. Do we have any questions or comments for the presenters today on this? Thank you, Gary, for bringing that up.
Thank you, Daniel, and Nancy. All right, next, moving to public hearings. There are two public hearings. The first public hearing, first reading of a board order planning for summer congestion around Barton and Carver Parks, and first reading of an ordinance adopting increasing parking fines. Is that right? Parking fines?
That is correct.
Okay, great. Scott Seco, Assistant County Counsel, will present. Go ahead, Scott.
Good morning, Commissioners. Chair Smith. We previously discussed this item on June 1st at a policy session, and what we are talking about here, now that the heat has officially arrived, is county planning for congestion at and around Barton and Carver Parks. Those places, as you're aware, get very busy, very popular on the weekends. People coming from Portland and all over the metro area to escape the heat, and we have this unavoidable problem that it just gets very busy and very crowded. So this issue affects several county departments, including the Sheriff's Office, DTD, and BCS County Parks, and we are asking this board to adopt a policy by way of a board order allocating the limited resources that the county has so that basically we can maximize those resources in order to address the problem holistically. And what that does, in addition to just being good policy and utilizing our resources in a efficient manner, is it actually gives us also a legal defense in the event there is a lawsuit in the future. If somebody is hurt and this board has made a policy decision about how it's going to allocate resources, we should theoretically be able to utilize a legal defense called discretionary immunity. And that basically is a defense in Oregon wherein it recognizes that public bodies do have these limited resources and they have to make difficult policy decisions about how to allocate those resources. And that is really what we're asking you to do here, is make that difficult policy decision about how to allocate your resources. So we've already talked about the specific details of the plans. I'm happy to go over those if you would like to revisit them. But essentially today, staff is here asking you to adopt a board order, which is adopting the policy that was previously discussed, and also as part of that, in conjunction with that board order, asking you to increase the fine for illegal parking in Clackamas County, which is currently at $40, and it's significantly lower than other parking violations. For example, if you park illegally in a park, it's closer to $80. However, if you're outside of that park, which is where we see a lot of problems here, the parking fine currently is only $40, so we're asking you to increase that to $80. That needs to be done by way of an ordinance because the parking fine is actually part of the county code. So those are the two items asking the board to consider today, to adopt the order today at one reading, and then to also have the first reading by title only of the ordinance increasing the traffic fine, or the parking fine, rather.
As far as process is concerned, we do both those actions today, right, Gary?
Yes, yes.
Okay, do we have any questions or clarifying comments for the presenter on this one? I will now open the meeting for public testimony. Is there anybody in the room who would like to testify on this matter? I don't see a blue card for this hearing. Shannon, is there anybody online?
There is not.
I will now close the public hearing for testimony on this. May I have a motion?
I move we adopt the order and read the ordinance by title only.
Second.
Commissioner Savas has made the motion. Commissioner Fischer has seconded that. Any further discussion? Shannon, please call the poll.
Commissioner Scholl,
Aye.
Commissioner Schrader,
Aye.
Commissioner Savas,
Aye.
Commissioner Fisher,
Aye.
Chair Smith.
Aye, motion passes 5-0. What's up next?
Shannon, would you, I'm sorry, would.
Oh, I'm
Shannon,
sorry,
yeah.
that's for me to say. Shannon, would you please assign a number and read the board order by title only?
The number assigned will be 03-2021, an ordinance amending Appendix B, fines of the Clackamas County Code and declaring an emergency.
Do any commissioners have further discussion on this item? Seeing none, the second reading is scheduled for Thursday, July 15, 2021, at the board's regularly scheduled business meeting at 10 a.m. Gary, what's next?
Thank you, Chair. Next, second public hearing, first reading of an ordinance amending Chapter 8.03 of the Clackamas County Code, secondhand dealers. Scott will also present. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you, members of the board, Chair Smith, here today to talk about secondhand dealer ordinance. I also have Sergeant Jed Wilson from the Clackamas County Sheriff's Office who is present, and I'm sure if you have specific questions about this, he's more than happy to come forward and answer those for you. This was an item that was also discussed previously at a policy session. The county regulates secondhand dealers, which are dealers, businesses that buy and sell in used goods, essentially. This includes pawn shops and things of that nature. We are asking the board, it's the Sheriff's Office that administers that section of the code, and primarily the Sheriff's Office interest in all of this is because thieves, people who steal property, often try to utilize these types of secondhand dealers as ways to move their stolen goods. And so the Sheriff's Office monitors this for two reasons. One, to help them with investigations and to catch criminals, people who are stealing this property, and also in order to help them get that returned property back to its rightful owners. So tracking the property is important. In order to do that, the Sheriff's Office is asking you to amend the code, Section 803. There are actually three amendments. Two of them are relatively minor, that I'll mention first, one of which is simply clarifying that firearms are no longer regulated property. That's something that's actually we're doing just to be consistent with state law, as there is a state law prohibition on local regulation of firearms. So that's something that was left in the code for some time. It's being taken out primarily as a housekeeping measure at this point. The second kind of minor change is just to clarify that if there is a reason for a fine or a fee owing to Clackamas County, and that amount is not paid, that collections agencies will be used to collect that, and that would be consistent with what other departments in the county do when money is owed to the county. Code enforcement, dog services being two off the top of my head that I know utilize collection agencies. The third change is some additional burden, admittedly, on the secondhand dealers, but the change would require secondhand dealers to take photographs of the property that they acquire and then place for sale. And again, that is done so that law enforcement can actually recognize and track the property when it is subject of a transaction through a secondhand dealer. Not all property has things like serial numbers or other identifying marks, so having a photograph of that is important for the sheriff's office to be able to track that property. And so those are the three changes that we are asking you to consider today and adopt by way of this ordinance.
Any clarifying questions for the presenter on this? We will now go to a public hearing, and I will take public testimony. I will start with people in the room, and I do have one card. Steve Souza, please come forward, state your residence, your name and residence, and you have 3 minutes.
Thank you, County Commissioners. My name is Steve Souza. I currently live in Clackamas County for over 20 years. I own all the glitters. We are a state licensed pawn shop. We have 5 stores in the state of Oregon. I've been doing this for over 28 years in the pawn shop business. Currently, right now, when people bring in merchandise, we photograph their ID, we take their thumbprint, they sign documentation that they're certifying the merchandise is theirs, and we give them a contract. And that information gets turned into all the local counties. Salem, for the last 7 years, has required us to take the pictures with all this other information that we already take and give that to them. There has not been any increase in recovered product because of stolen merchandise. Since I've been in the industry, Craigslist.com, LetItGo.com, OfferUp.com, Facebook Marketplace.com, Mercada.com, all have come up because of all this merchandise that people take, and none of those websites are regulated at all. If somebody steals something and they have any kind of suspicion that they think it's stolen, or even remotely, the last thing they're going to do is want to give us their driver's license, their thumbprint, and signed documentation that it's not their property. I have the last 7 years of how many transactions the Salem store has done and the number of police holds or confiscated items, and it is, for 2020, we did 13,183 transactions. Transactions is someone comes in and buys or gets a loan or sells us merchandise. There can be up to 5 items on each transaction. Out of that 13,183, 9 were put on police hold. 2019, we had 19,135. Out of those, 3 were put on police hold. And these are all photos we have to take. This is an enormous amount of work. If someone steals something, all they got to use is their phone, click, put it on any of those 5 websites with 0 regulation and sell their merchandise. They are not coming in to state licensed pawn shops. They are not coming into my store.
Thank you for your testimony on that. I appreciate it very much, hearing from the retailer.
Any questions for me?
I do not have any questions for you, but I appreciate you coming forward.
Chair, I have a question. So just for clarification, Mr. Souza, the burden you foresee is just the extra photographs?
Yes, it's an enormous amount of time to take pictures of every single item, and then also we have to upload those. It used to be through the Rapid system, but Clackamas County is now shifting to Leads Online. I was against the Rapid system because of the cost, and so you got an enormous amount of pictures that you're going to have to upload, store, and any of the police officers, they can go to any of those websites, you know, because individuals are selling it, and they can look at the pictures already. So the websites that have 0 regulation, they have the pictures on there. So if I was a police officer, I would look at those websites because no one's regulating that. We are regulated by the Oregon Banking Commission on everything that we do, everything.
Yeah. Thank you for the clarification, and I'll have a question for staff afterwards.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Anybody else in the hearing room who would like to testify on this? Shannon, is there anybody on Zoom?
There was a registered participant, but they have dropped off the call.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Savas, do you want to have any questions at this point or wait for later?
Yeah, I do have a question. It's really on the software and how easy it is for the sellers, the merchants in this case, businesses. How streamlined is the software to do the uploading? Is it similar and it's easy as Craigslist and all these other means? Is it more cumbersome? It seems to me that there ought to be something that makes it easy for the secondhand dealers to upload. So I just want to know or make sure, affirm that it's streamlined.
Due to my general lack of tech savviness, I will ask Sergeant Wilson to come forward and talk about that.
Sergeant Wilson, please come forward, state your name, your position.
Thank you. I'm Sergeant Jed Wilson with Clackamas County Sheriff's Office. I currently supervise our property crimes investigation unit. What I can tell you regarding the software, my familiarization with the Leads Online software, which is just simply put the software in which these transactions, it used to be a paper transaction that were delivered to the sheriff's office. Now it's online, so these transactions are input via this software, then we are able to access it on our end. 100% of my familiarity with that program is on our end of it, where I look to see what has been submitted to us and not inputting it. I have, however, spoken with, and my staff has spoken with representatives, our local representative from Leads Online, who assures me that if that their system will work seamlessly with just about every point of sale software that is out there, so that a photo can be taken of the item, of identification of the person themselves, and be seamlessly submitted into that software. And if that is not currently happening with our local dealers, they are happy to work with those dealers to make sure that that is happening. They have their own tech people that are willing to write software to make sure that the point of sale programs are working with Leads Online itself.
Okay, follow-up, how long is a secondhand dealer or yourselves required to retain those photographs?
I believe the code says a year. It would be my position that once it is submitted to Leads Online, it is stored. Then it does say that the dealers themselves have to store that transaction for a year, the paperwork and the photo for a year. It would be my position that once it's uploaded to Leads Online, that it is stored there and it is accessible on Leads Online. And so the further storage is sort of archaic at this point.
Okay. The other point, I mean, and there's a question there, I think, in this, and that is that in my previous business life, I did a lot of online sales in my latter years, so I'm familiar with, and I know that law enforcement, the sheriff's office, came out to my place and made sure, introduced themselves, if I had any suspicion, handed their card and so on. So my question is, I know from that and learned since then that law enforcement does scan through some of these websites for stolen property. Is that accurate?
The offer-ups and is that what you're referring to? Yes, sir.
Yeah. So those sites are visited. I just want to just put that out there. That I don't know how much staffing is put towards scanning those sites, but I do know from time to time that things are been pulled off of there, and law enforcement has been alerted to that. So my closing comment is this. I do know, from hearing from a lot of constituents with the increase of property crimes, that people are always trying to get their merchandise back and feeling the impacts. And I know our sheriff's office are doing their best to address some of the property crimes taking place. Anything we can do to discourage property crimes, I think this is one step that might help, and people to get their property back, as I think is our charge. I think our responsibility. I think so. Mr. Sue, I appreciate the extra burden you're taking and the secondhand dealers, but in the interest of the greater good of the public, I think it might be something that will improve our ability to identify, recover, and identify the people that are embarking on these crimes. So that's all I have.
Thank you. Commissioner Savas. Commissioner Scholl, you're up.
Yes, Mr. Seko, just so we understand the process here, this is the first reading of this proposed amendment to the ordinance,
Correct.
or Mr. Madcore. Should we elect to remove this third item off the amendment, the additional burden photographs, would that be done after the second reading, Mr. Madcore?
You could do it between the two. If the board had changes today, they could make recommendations on it, and we would modify it and present it to you at a second reading. As long as it's not substantially changed, you would just continue to the second reading.
I'm going to interject right now and close the public hearing and continue with the comments. Thank you. Go ahead.
Yes, thank you. And I just want to clarify that should this amendment be approved as it's currently written, the part about the additional photographs, doesn't that put a burden on the brick and mortar stores like All That Glitters, which is a highly respected chain in the state, and not so much on all the traffic that's going through the online websites?
Sure, this is not a regulation of the online, of the websites and the larger internet sites. This is just a regulation that is directed at the secondhand dealers.
So the total effect on this in terms of adding additional visibility to our police agencies on stolen property, is it going to really have that big of an effect when so much property could be sold on the internet?
I would defer to Sergeant Wilson on that question.
Yes, sir. It's very difficult to say, to give you a hard number. I can tell you from my own personal experience and even just recent experience within the last month, we investigated a burglary case where $50,000 worth of jewelry was stolen, and we have proven that the suspect has been arrested. We have proven that he had taken some of the jewelry, he had melted some of the jewelry down, he had kept some of it in its jewelry form and taken it to area pawn shops where those transaction records we have, and so we know that is happening, and it is happening on a regular basis. The great thing about it is when they are taken in there, we do have a photo of their ID, as opposed to when they're at an offer up or an online sale, they can use whatever name they want with whatever email address they want. And so tracking, we may be able to find the item, but tracking them down is very difficult, tracking down the actual person. As our hope is that as staffing improves with the sheriff's office, with the current passing of the increased funding for us to increase our staffing, that we're able to staff these cases more and utilize this tool much more. It's very difficult to identify things like jewelry but via a description on a transaction record. If someone takes it in, it's incumbent upon the dealer to input that. If they input that as diamond ring gold, as opposed to gold diamond ring, we have to search it like a search engine like Google. It's very difficult for us to determine how they've input that. If we're able to just search Clackamas County dealers, which we are easily able to do for the last 7 days or 2 weeks or whatever we want, and we can in 5 minutes scroll through every photo that was, every transaction that was made with every photo of that piece of jewelry and compare it to an insurance quote photo or some photo that the victim might have, and we can easily say yay or nay on each one of those items. And it's a fantastic tool for us that we have used against other counties like Clark County and in Salem where they do this, and we're able to compare those photos. We just aren't able to do it with our local dealers.
Okay, so the question here is, like Mr. Souza said, out of over 13,000 transactions, 19 came up as police holds. My concern is that, are we asking our professional organizations like All That Glitters to do an unprecedented amount of work for a very small effect on our police effort?
It's a tough question to answer. My response would be that in the case where one Clackamas County resident had $50,000 worth of documented jewelry taken, and we were able to recover some of that property for her and give her closure on that. To me, that makes it worthwhile. And again, with our increased staffing, our hope is that this happens more. And that was just one example from the last month. So it's definitely a give and take. I understand that.
Okay, thank you.
Well, Sergeant Wilson, you cite one incidence where this has helped you.
Yes, ma'am.
I assume there's more?
There are more. I'm unable to give you a lot of specific examples. I just know that every time we get these burglaries or thefts and we're able to view other areas that require this, it makes the investigation on our end to either confirm or deny this property that's sold. It's a great tool for us to use with our limited resources to investigate these crimes.
Does anybody know how many dealers like this in Clackamas County this ordinance will affect?
It's 10 or 11. I'm sorry, I don't have that. That's pretty close.
I'm just a little bit confused. Mr. Souza said that he already takes photographs. Did you say that correctly?
Yes, at the Salem store, we currently do that.
At the Salem store, but not in Clackamas?
Correct.
Okay. All
If-
right.
And I have the data for the last 7 years on the amount of transactions and the amount of police holds.
So when somebody comes into your store, you have their driver's license and their fingerprint or thumbprint, and then you run a systems check on it. And if they pop up with a record or whatever, you either decline the transaction or you take some action where you don't proceed with the transaction.
When they come in, they bring in their item and they present their driver's license. We scan it. We do a detailed description of the merchandise. If it's any kind of hard good product, the serial number gets written down, and then that gets sent to the local police departments that night, and then it puts it in their system. Clackamas County is leads online. Salem is also leads online. And then if there's any kind of past history or Mr. Smith is, then it red flags that particular customer.
Okay. Commissioner Savas, you're in the queue.
Yeah, for our deputy here today, so Clackamas County requires a photograph of their ID today, correct?
Yes, sir. It's either a photograph or a scan.
Okay.
Most of our dealers seem to be just taking a photo,
Okay.
which would be the same process as photographing the item itself.
Okay. So if someone brings in, let's say, a ring, piece of jewelry,
Yes, sir.
they're required to take one photograph of that piece of jewelry?
Yes.
Okay. So in this instance, a secondhand dealer is taking a picture of their ID or a scan, and in this case, an additional picture of the item. So is one picture per item?
That isn't clearly outlined. My expectation would be that the items are visible, that they're recognizable in a photo. So if it was 5 rings and one photo could be taken of the 5 rings to put on that one transaction record where all 5 rings are visible, to me, that would satisfy what we're after. But I don't believe the language specifically addresses that.
Okay. I just didn't know. I want to get understand that if someone brings in one item, it's to be one additional picture aside from their driver's license. Thank you.
Okay. Any further questions for the presenter on this? I'll entertain a motion.
I move we read the ordinance by title only.
Second.
The motion has been made by Commissioner Savas and seconded by Commissioner Fischer. Any further discussion on this? Shannon, please call the poll.
Commissioner Scholl,
Aye.
Commissioner Savas,
Aye.
Commissioner Fisher,
Aye.
Commissioner Schrader,
Aye.
Chair Smith.
Aye, motion passes 5-0. Shannon, will you please assign a number and read the ordinance by title only?
We will assign the number 04-2021, An ordinance amending Clackamas County Code, Chapter 8.03, secondhand dealers.
Thank you. Do the commissioners have any proposed changes or amendments to the draft ordinance at this time? And this is in the form of a draft, and I understand from county council that up until the final reading on this, changes can be made, correct?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Chair?
Yes.
If I may, I just want to for those present and those present online or anyone, is that we have until July 15th, I guess, for the second reading, so there's opportunity.
That is next in my script, Commissioner Savas.
But yeah, my point was that there's opportunity for people to reach out to us if there's any, thing that wasn't shared or discussed that, gets us to better understand any burdens placed on the secondhand dealers. Just want to put that out there, that I'd be receptive to any other input.
Yeah, and I want to thank you for that, as I would be too, because I'm not wholly convinced that maybe the third item of this ordinance is needed. Just saying. The second reading is scheduled for Thursday, July 15, 2021, at the board's regularly scheduled business meeting at 10 a.m. Commissioner Fischer.
We're going to get through this. This is our last meeting with us all being around here, so we'll be able to do it better. So I am just really, I know this is a side, this is not related to this, but as a victim of burglary, people coming in and stealing lots of jewelry that I don't know what happened to, although they did catch the people that burglarized my house. This was a while ago, but I am just interested in what is happening, it's either federal law or state law, to really hone in on all of the platforms that were mentioned as far as Let It Go, OfferUp, Marketplace, Craigslist. What is happening? And is this something we need to advocate with our legislative leaders so that there is more resources for enforcement? Or I'm sure it doesn't have jurisdictional boundaries when things are used on the internet the way a certain business would have in our jurisdiction. But I'm just interested, we do need to figure that out because this is a problem. So, I know you're shaking your head. So
Thank you. Yeah, I don't have any specific response to it. It seems like a good point. I'm happy to look and see if there's any considered legislation taking place at the state or the federal level. I'm not aware of any offhand.
Okay, that'd be great.
Is that it on this item?
Yep.
Thank you, presenters, for coming in. Thank you, Mr. Souza, for giving us a point of view on this. Gary, what's next?
I'm sorry, did you announce the second reading date, Chair? You may have, and I skipped.
I did. I said the second reading is scheduled.
I'm sorry, you did. Thank you. Sorry.
Yes, you bet. That's all right.
Spaced out. All right. Next is the consent agenda. Chris Shannon, will you please read the consent agenda by title only?
Approval to execute a short-term revenue sharing agreement between Clackamas County and Metro to receive revenues collected from Measure 26-210 starting July 1, 2021. Approval of an amendment to an intergovernmental agreement with the State of Oregon related to funding for a future county courthouse. No financial impact from this amendment.
Does any commissioner wish to remove any items from the consent agenda? Seeing none, may I have a motion?
I move to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Commissioner Scholl has moved for approval. Commissioner Fischer has seconded. Any further discussion? Shannon, please call the poll.
Commissioner Schrader?
Aye.
Commissioner Fisher?
Aye.
Commissioner Scholl?
Aye.
Commissioner Savas?
Aye.
Chair Smith?
Aye, motion passes. I will now announce the board will recess as the Board of County Commissioners and convene as the North Clackamas and Recreation District Board for the consent agenda.
Next is the North Clackamas Parks and Recreation District consent agenda. Shannon, will you please read the consent agenda by title only?
Approval of an intergovernmental agreement between North Clackamas Parks and Recreation District and North Clackamas School District to provide summer enrichment programs for students. This intergovernmental agreement will provide up to $237,311 and is included in the fiscal year 21-22 NCPRD adopted budget. No county general funds are involved.
Thank you. Any commissioner wish to remove any item off the consent agenda? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion.
I move for approval of the NCPRD consent agenda.
Seconded.
Commissioner Savas has moved for approval. Commissioner Scholl has seconded. Any further discussion? Shannon, please call the poll.
Commissioner Fischer?
Aye.
Commissioner Savas?
Aye.
Commissioner Scholl?
Aye.
Commissioner Schrader?
Aye.
Chair Smith?
Aye, motion passes 5-0. I will now announce the board will adjourn as the NCPRD Board and reconvene as the Board of County Commissioners for the rest of the meeting. Gary, what's up next?
Next is public communication, Chair Smith.
Thank you. This portion of the agenda shall be limited to items of county business which are properly the object of board consideration and should be nonpartisan in nature, as the BCC is a nonpartisan governing body under Oregon Revised Statutes and County Code. Testimony is limited to 3 minutes. Comments shall be respectful and courteous to all. As a reminder, you can email submissions for public communication at bcc@clackamas.us, and these will be accepted as part of the public record. However, we will not read them because of time constraints. As a reminder, I will now open the public hearing for public testimony, and the first person in the room for my card is Yvonne Lazarus. Please come forward, state your name as residency, and you have 3 minutes.
Good morning, Chair and Commissioners. I have not been vaccinated. Can I remove this so I can speak?
Yes, you may.
can.
Okay, thank you. I'm here to speak to you about transparency. The posting of all department heads' names, how to reach them, meetings, agendas for all committees, councils of the advisory groups to make it clear. All meetings with unlimited accessibility. I have been asking for this for the last 6 months. I also have been asking that Mark Shell be reinstated. I'm going off script now. This all needs to be settled, please. There are many people out there that can only come in an evening meeting who feel I wouldn't keep coming if I didn't have some sort of backing. Mark needs to be reinstated. He needs to have everything given back to him so we can get past this. In my opinion, I have been coming up here because I saw a political coup. 2 people were elected, and then it got started. They have been shot at, they've been abused. I'm very serious about this. I want an investigation by Clackamas County done. I ask your pardon that I didn't have this written. I'm going to get it written. I almost fried over the hot weather. We all know how horrible that was. I mean, my brain wouldn't have written anything. Which that isn't really funny because it was horrible for all of us. Please know that I want this done and I will get it in. Tootie, I saw you clear a room. I know you can do this. I know any person who's on this list is partisan. And if they work for the county, that's partisan. It cannot be here. It has to be taken off. This is going to work out the way it's going to work out as far as what they're calling for Mark Shaw.
Thank you. Yvonne, I'm curious about the information that you say that you have been asking for 6 months. What is it?
The information that I've been asking is the transparency. I want, I want all of the little advisory groups and the
So if I can interject, you want the names of our department heads and their emails.
I want them listed. I want anybody to be
Yes.
able to
Just
go
a
in.
minute. I'm finishing.
Okay, sorry.
I'm kind of going through this one at a time because kind of that's how my brain works. So you want a list of all the department heads and their emails. Additionally, you want a list of all of our boards, advisory boards and commissions and their membership, correct?
Correct, and I want it posted on, I want us to be able to go on, just like,
Posted on our website.
yes,
Gary, can you answer this?
Yeah, so first, there is an employee directory online that you can search by name or department for any county employee, their email address, and their phone number. So that does exist on the county website as it is today. And each department has a web page that lists the department director, but you have to go by department.
Yeah,
Each
and I
department.
noticed just a minute, and I noticed if you go on the website and you check just a minute, Yvonne, and it's a little bit cumbersome, if you check departments, and then you check departments, and then A, B, C, D, D is listed across. So for instance, assessment and taxation, you click on that, A.
Yes.
That comes up, and then the department head is listed there with their address. And you'd have to go through the alphabet to get them all. That's how they're listed, according to department.
well, on the 2 flash drives that I have, I actually had to come up here and go to your receptionist. And on that meeting, the emergency meeting of the 19th of, that was on the occlusion and, just a minute here.
It's the Leaders in Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion
Yes.
Committee.
Yes. Thank you. They couldn't even find it at first,
Okay.
you know.
So,
And it's, so, and there's 2 occlusions, there's 2 of them. And one's a committee and one's a council.
Gary, can you address this?
Yes, so that's correct. There is an internal staff committee of Equity and Diversity Council. That's employees only, internally. There's the external Leaders of Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion Committee. I'm missing the names, but one's an external advisory board, one's an internal staff committee.
Okay, the external, I think, is what we're talking about, isn't it?
Yes.
Yes. And that's how we got here with all of this problem of partisan and nonpartisan is, and I want an investigation of those people. And I want people here in, I'm asking, please, you can't be partisan up here. I mean, I know all of you know that. You can't. We've never had a problem like this. And I've come before this board way before now. This has to, they have to know there's repercussions. You may vote for who you want to vote for, but you can't have it up here. That isn't what this is for. It's for the things you've been talking about today.
Thank you, Yvonne. I'm going to have Gary respond to your request.
Yes, so the advisory boards and committees website, you are correct. We could do a lot better to have it much more transparent with minutes, copies of videos, the rosters of every advisory board. You're absolutely right. My staff is working on that.
Thank
It's
you.
complicated because we have 49 advisory boards, so we're just collecting all of that data to put it online so it's totally transparent. So commissioners, we're on it. We're going as fast as we can to get that done. The particular council you're discussing or mentioning, the Leaders in Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion, it's an external advisory board. They are all community members. They are appointed by you commissioners, but they're not employees. They advise the Board of County Commissioners and our equity office. If you are not satisfied with them, that's your choice, commissioners, how you wish to address that, but those are not employees. Those are community members who you appoint to serve on that advisory committee.
Thank you, Gary. Commissioner Savas.
Yeah, I just want to make one clarification. I think I can speak for myself, and I will do just that. And And I appreciate that we're trying to address some of the concerns by Ms. Lazarus here today. But the clarification I would like to make, and as someone who initiated the crafting, the drafting, and the approval of the nonpartisan resolution, that I don't sit here with partisan bias. I, for one, do not sit here with partisan bias. I do not express partisanship in any way. So if you perceive that, I understand that. But I'm not knowledgeable of any partisan effort up here. It has been expressed, my colleagues at times expressed, I think, things that could be easily perceived, and probably are to some degree from time to time, as partisan. But I sit here really with the belief and a position that what I take and what I do here is on the behalf of every citizen in this county in a nonpartisan, non-biased way, as best I humanly can.
Okay, but Paul, you're speaking for yourself.
I am.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Yvonne. And I'm sure we're going to get some action taken on this.
May I say one more thing?
Please be brief.
I am hoping that you will take me very serious on this thing with Mark.
And I need to say something to you and everybody else out there listening. Commissioner Scholl has not asked to have his liaison duties returned to him. So I think before anybody else comes and demands stuff of this commission, it may be incumbent on the commissioner himself. Thank you for testifying today. Thank you, Yvonne, for testifying today. And staff is taking action on some of your other requests. Shannon, how many people do we have online?
We currently have 9 left.
9, okay. You know, I'm thinking maybe some of those other people who were online saw us do the ban on fireworks and opted off, and I appreciate that very much. Go ahead, please.
First up is Chris Waller. Chris, please unmute yourself, state your name, residence, and you have 3 minutes.
Chris Waller, Jennings Lodge. The last couple of weeks in our county have been difficult. First, the heat wave caused tremendous suffering and damage. And second, increasing partisan activity led to disruptions in this meeting room, a riot in Clackamas Park, and a campaign of death threats and intimidation directed at Larry Didway, former head of the Oregon City School District, now as of today, leader of Clackamas ESD. Commissioner Scholl does not seem to understand the reality behind these incidents. He cannot possibly represent the citizens of the county that he demeans. On June 29th, Commissioner Scholl reposted a picture of an article from the Seattle Times with a headline that read, "Heat Inequality. In county it's hottest where vulnerable, less affluent live." The original poster had written, "You heard it here first, folks. The hot spell is racist." Scholl added, not sure how heat is selective. Well, Commissioner Scholl, if you are not sure, perhaps you should do your research before inflaming your base, who responded to your post with remarks like, "Hey, socialists, why do you stuff all your unwanted poster boys, girls, thems, and its in ovens when not needed for the cameras? And now they want white people to feel guilty because it's not as hot where we live." Perhaps you should just have read the article. It explained how people in less affluent areas tend to be surrounded by blacktop and streets that collect and radiate heat, with few stretches of open ground or trees to modulate. Think of the difference between a sun-baked apartment on 82nd Avenue, likely without air conditioning, and your house in Sandy with its pools, gardens, and acres of forest. In order to address inequity, you first have to believe in its existence, not deny it or make fun of it. On June 25th, Commissioner Scholl posted a video titled "Man Unleashes on School Board for Plotting to Silence Parents." The video was several minutes of a man screaming at school board members. I researched it, and it was of a group in Pennsylvania that attacked the school board for daring to promote diversity, equity, and inclusion, demanding the resignation of Dr. Sharissa Gibson, the Black woman who led DEIA efforts for the district. One of Scholl's base commented, "Wait till we get hostile and see what happens." That Commissioner Scholl would openly promote rhetoric of the type that led to the threats against Larry Didway and the disruption of these meetings is unacceptable. Soon, hopefully, we will have a well-informed board that can host the spirited discourse of varying opinions that is our right, without encouraging ignorance or partisan violence. As I said last week, not only should we adopt a resolution stating that our county denounces hate groups and political violence, our commissioners should themselves pledge to refuse to whip up their bases with divisive rhetoric. Thank you.
Next up.
Next up is Bill Weir. Bill, please unmute yourself, state your name and residence. You have 3 minutes.
Well, good morning, Chair Smith and Commissioners. The Commission has heard citizens demanding action by you to pass a resolution banning vaccine passports. You also heard from individuals who have themselves or family members suffering from the side effects of various COVID vaccines. Last week, I learned about one of my relatives who is now trying to recover from inflammation of the heart area and severe inflammation around the lungs from the Pfizer shots. She is now to get a CAT scan for suspected blood clots. Her cardiologist says it is from the shots. She's 22 years old and has had COVID before the shot. Although one is supposedly immune after COVID, she was forced to take the shot in order to return to college. Of the 700 physicians responding to a survey by the Association of American Physicians and Surgeons in June 2021, nearly 60% said they were not fully vaccinated against COVID. Virtually no physicians are antibiotics or anti-surgery, the survey went on, where all are opposed to treatments that they think are unnecessary, more likely to harm than benefit an individual patient, or inadequately tested. This survey goes on to say that 54% of the physician respondents were aware of patients suffering significant adverse reaction. Of the unvaccinated physicians, 80% said they believed that the risk of the shots exceeded the risk of disease. Although the governor has opened up the state, she has not relinquished her emergency powers. This new Delta strain could be used by Salem for more shutdowns, a never-ending cycle. I believe you need to pass a sense of the commission banning vaccine passports as one step to show you're committed to keeping Clackamas County open. From that point, develop a plan to make Clackamas County a sanctuary county in matters of state COVID mandates. I read something the other day that I think sums up what this pandemic revealed. Quote, pandemics come and go. Viruses burn out or mutate until they're harmless. But democratic rights, for which people have fought hard for centuries, were given over to a nanosecond of fear and panic. Thank you.
Next up is Connie Lee. Connie, please unmute yourself, state your name and residence. You have 3 minutes.
My name is Connie Lee, Lake Oswego. Thank you so much for your fireworks ban voted on today. I scrapped my planned testimony, but I would like to address the dry conditions we are facing this summer. From the Associated Press, 6/29. Quote, the heat wave was caused by what meteorologists describe as a dome of high pressure over the Northwest and worsened by human-caused climate change, which is making such extreme weather events more likely and more intense, unquote. Due to this heat wave, 63 people died in Oregon. My friend Gail Cordell, a retired high school science teacher who lives in the unincorporated part of Redland on a small farm, says that, quote, everyone will be affected by climate change and some will be devastated, unquote. Last year, her family had 2 fires in her neighborhood with 1 evacuation due to the fire. More importantly, last week, her daughter's small business on the farm was seriously impacted when a significant part of a nursery crop was lost or damaged due to the unprecedented heat. As county commissioners, we are looking to you to take precautions now regarding this summer's fires. Experts did foresee more fires this summer before the heat wave, which are now more likely to be worse than those expected. We ask you as commissioners to do whatever it takes to keep us safe. It is your principal mandate as an elected official. Thank you.
Up next, Shannon.
Up next is Angela Nyland. Angela, please unmute yourself, state your name and residence. You have 3 minutes.
Yes. Well, good afternoon, commissioners. My name is Angela Nyland. I'm from Boring, Oregon. First, I would like to thank Janice in your office for all of her assistance with questions, because I am unable to find information on the website. The transparency thing will be great, because she answers questions rapidly, gets me information and responds rapidly to questions, so I can request public information. My understanding from working with Janice is there is no county policy or procedure for removing or reinstating a commissioner's liaison duties. Commissioner Scholl lost his liaison duties as a result of a document unrelated to his liaison assignment. Since I am unable to make a motion, I am requesting, Mark, maybe you, since Tootie's saying you need to ask for it back, although I'd like to know where in the procedures that is, make a motion to get your liaison duties back. And if that isn't possible, then we'll, I guess, need to start a petition and get things started that way. But I would like a motion to get Commissioner Scholl his liaison duties back so he can focus on business. Thank you.
Up next, Shannon.
Up next is Gerald Murphy. Gerald, please unmute yourself, state your name and residence. You have 3 minutes. Gerald, you'll need to unmute yourself.
Is that Gerald Murphy?
Mm-hmm. Do you want me to come back?
Why don't we come back to him, give him an opportunity, and Gerald Murphy, we're going to come back to you when your technology is fixed. Go ahead and move on.
Okay. Next up is Debbie Otenberg. Debbie, please unmute yourself, state your name and residence. You have 3 minutes.
I actually tried to cancel my registration. I apologize, but I do appreciate the board voting on a ban for the fireworks this year. Thank you.
Thank you, Debbie. Up next.
Just one moment. Next up is Cassie Wilson. Oh, Cassie Wilson has also dropped off. Wait, there she is. Sorry.
Let's go back to Gerald Murphy.
Okay.
Maybe he came off too and didn't know it. Or is he trying to do something? Can you tell?
Gerald Murphy?
Yes, I'm here.
Wonderful. You have 3 minutes. State your name and residence.
My name is Gerald Murphy, otherwise known as Murph. I live in Rhododendron. I'm also a member of the Planning Commission. I would like to speak for my neighborhood. I live in Timberline Rim, which is a forested neighborhood that consists of lots that are 1/6 an acre. We're very close together. And during the 4th of July, it's very scary around here because we have fireworks going off all over the place. And we need to have a ban this year due to the fact that we have a drought going on, our trees are turning brown, and right now we need to make a stance that we are not going to tolerate this and put our people in danger. I have written my state legislature, I have talked to the state forestry, I've written this commission. I'm acting to do what I can possibly do to change this behavior. We need to make a stand and outlaw fireworks, period, especially in forested areas. It's a high risk. I can't believe that there's not banned or they haven't been banned prior to this time after what we went through last year. We lost 1 million acres last year in the state of Oregon. Clackamas County was hit pretty heavy. Some of the prettiest areas I had ever seen have been devastated. and we're going to take that risk again. There are other ways that we can raise money for nonprofits. You just implemented your small grant program. We could expand on that and perhaps supply some of our nonprofits with income through that type of income basis. We need to step away from fireworks. We're not losing jobs by banning fireworks in Clackamas County. 95% of our fireworks are made at overseas manufacturing plants. They're imported into this country. I don't see that it's going to hurt anything. So I'm asking Clackamas County Planning Commissioners to please support banning fireworks permanently. Thank you.
Is that it?
Cassie Wilson is up next. Cassie, you have 3 minutes. Please state your name and residence.
Good afternoon, Chair Smith and Commissioners. My name is Cassie Wilson. I'm a resident of Boring. You may also know that I'm on the county's Youth Advisory Task Force on Climate, but here I speak only for myself. I'm 22 years old, and I'm here to express my concerns and fears around climate change. I've honestly rewritten this every time that we've had a climate disaster recently, but at this point, I'm just exhausted because there have been so many. Wildfires, smoke, windstorms, ice storms, power outages, droughts, and last weekend's devastatingly lethal heat wave. All of these things have affected our county and state over the past 10 months, and all of these things were made worse or caused by human-induced climate change. Now, I know that the county has set a goal of being carbon neutral by 2050, and I do appreciate you supporting climate action. But I don't think this target is good enough or bold enough anymore. According to the IPCC, without a sharp decline in greenhouse gas emissions by 2030, global warming will surpass 1.5 degrees Celsius in the following decades, leading to irreversible loss of the most fragile ecosystems and crisis after crisis for the most vulnerable people and societies. Science keeps telling us we're not acting quickly enough. When are we going to listen? Our county is already being directly impacted by climate change, and we have less than 9 years before our climate fate is sealed globally. As a county that has firsthand experience with the effects and destruction of climate change, we need to do more than the bare minimum when it comes to mitigation to be leaders on this issue. I'm asking that you move up the goal for carbon neutrality. By the time the Climate Action Plan is ready, we'll only have 7 years to critically reduce emissions. Climate change will not wait for us to get it together or take our time because it's already here. We need to be aggressive and proactive about this because if you think what we've experienced in the past 10 months is bad, I can't imagine what it'll be like when I am your age. If I'm going to have to deal with climate grief and trauma, I at least want to know that my county is doing everything possible to stop it from getting worse. This includes making climate smart decisions while the Climate Action Plan is still being developed. No other decisions you make will matter if our county becomes uninhabitable due to continued climate disasters. This means not supporting or prioritizing freeway expansions in the middle of a climate crisis when 40% of the state's emissions come from transportation. This is already the hottest summer on record, but it will likely be the coolest summer for the rest of our lives. Please move up the goal for carbon neutrality. Thank you.
We have one more caller, Christine Kennedy. Christine, please unmute yourself, state your name and residence. You have 3 minutes.
Good morning. My name is Christine Kennedy. I'm a 6-year resident of Clackamas County. Chair Smith, Commissioners, Administrator Schmidt, before I speak on my subject in terms of COVID and vaccinations, I just want to say that I thought Cassie Wilson's statement was really well done, and I really appreciate her calling in. Today, we celebrate a cool, cloudy day and the end of the governor's executive orders to combat the COVID pandemic. The virus still exists. We know that the risk is decreased for those who are vaccinated. Vaccinations continue to be widely available, and I really do want to say thank you to Clackamas County and Chair Smith for offering vaccinations and continuing to offer vaccinations at specific locations, as well as going to the workplaces and other locations. This really needs to be a focus to make this convenient, since we seem to be really struggling with the issue of confidence in the vaccine. But I do trust that those at the board meeting today who are unmasked are vaccinated. And I just want to say thank you very much. We are being asked to trust each person in the grocery store without a mask is vaccinated. This is called the honor system. Wow. Each person needs to make their own risk assessment. And seriously, honor is a good thing. We should be honest about what we're doing. After 16 months, we've learned so much about the virus. We have so much more information and understanding. Today, we heard your last, hopefully, final COVID update. But I am confident that Clackamas County Public Health will continue to monitor cases and continue to offer vaccinations. The data about deaths from COVID-19, in May, there was a study suggesting 99% of COVID deaths are in unvaccinated people. Let's continue to make it easy for people in Clackamas County to get vaccinated and take a leap of faith that people will be honest and respect others. Thank you.
Up next, Shannon.
That is the end of my list.
Thank you very much. I will now close the public communication portion of this meeting, and we'll move on. Gary, can you introduce the next item?
Yes, Chair, thank you. Next is County Administrator update. That's me. First, Commissioners, I signed 3 contracts on your behalf under the authority of the COVID-19 Emergency Declaration 2020-14. I'm seeking your ratification of those contracts I signed on your behalf. The first was for Health, Housing, and Human Services. I signed on June 29th, 2021. It is an amendment with Father's Heart Street Ministry to provide shelter support services for individuals and households in hotel-based shelters. The amendment adds $234,960 to the total contract amount of $319,960. Funding is from federal and state COVID dollars and state homeless assistance program funds. There's no match requirement, no general funds are involved. The agreement lasts until December 31st, 2021. Next, I signed an agreement with, on behalf of Disaster Management on June 30th, 2021. It is an amendment to a personal services agreement with Robert Half International for COVID-19 temporary administrative staff. The amendment extends the term of the agreement until September 30, 2021. There are no additional funds added. The original funding amount is $300,000 total. Funding through State CARES Act funds. No general funds are involved. Finally, I signed an agreement on June 30, 2021 for disaster management. It is an intergovernmental agreement with Tualatin Valley Fire and Rescue for the use of a deep freeze freezer to store COVID-19 vaccines. This is a cooperative agreement only. No funds are involved. It is in effect until terminated by either party. Again, I signed these 3 contracts on your behalf. I'm seeking your approval to ratify these items.
I move to ratify the items.
I'll second that. Commissioner Savas has moved to ratify. I have seconded it. Any further discussion on this? Christina. Shannon, please call the poll.
Certainly. Commissioner Schrader?
Aye.
Commissioner Fischer?
Aye.
Commissioner Savas?
Aye.
Commissioner Scholl?
Aye.
Chair Smith?
Aye. Motion has passed 5-0.
Great, thank you, Commissioners. Just one quick piece of good news I'd like to share, and you may have heard this already. Our Stafford Hamlet has been giving out free sunflower seeds to all members of the community to help everyone show acts of unity and support for all of us in our community during these very, very challenging times. The Hamlet members have been giving these free packets out and hope that the community will celebrate our local community and the agricultural community in particular for all that our agriculture area on farms and others do to support us all. Pictures are being put on social media to share the good news of people who are planting their sunflower seeds. So if anyone would like sunflower seeds, reach out to the Stafford Hamlet directly, which is on our contact information on our county website, or contact county administration and we'll loop you in. That's my update. Thank you, Commissioners.
Thank you very much. We will now move on to Commissioner Communication. According to my list, Commissioner Schrader, you're up first today.
Well, good afternoon, colleagues. It's just a little bit after 12, so I think we can realistically say we moved into a little bit past the noon hour. I want to mention a couple of things. This coming next week is the National Association of Counties Conference. I am a board member, so I will be attending those meetings, and I want to thank my colleagues at the Association of Oregon Counties for continuing to designate me not only for our county, but for all counties across the state of Oregon to be a board member. That's where essentially we run the business of the National Association. We will be doing breakout sessions for each arena, each entity to do their own resolutions to Congress. I serve on the Community Economic Development and Workforce Committee, and we have about 20 resolutions that we will more than likely be moving forward. Occasionally they're contentious, but pretty often we are all on the same page with that. Also, I want to thank you for delegating me to be the voting member for the second vice president of the National Association of Counties. Before I leave, I hope all of you get a look at the three great individuals who are running. You can't go wrong, but I certainly would like to have your feedback on who you think would be a great second vice president. That person moves then up to the first vice president, and then they move on to being the president of the entire National Association. It's an important position because really there is a presidential initiative, and the president sets the tone for the years to come. The last two presidents have been leading under unprecedented times. Marianne Borgeson is one of them, who is a friend of mine. And under amazing circumstances, your National Association has prevailed in all these areas. And I want to make a second observation about the 4th of July. I certainly appreciate the fact that we moved forward with our fireworks ban. I think it is extremely important given the heat circumstances that we are all experiencing. But I'm just going to make another comment, and that is I have a 109-pound Labradane, half Labrador, half Great Dane, and a 14-pound Pomeranian. And the 109-pound Labradane, when fireworks go off, regularly tries to crawl into my lap. And the Pomeranian tries to sit on my shoulder and lick my face very anxiously. So quite frankly, I'm also going to mention that pets and even cats and other animals, not just dogs, are oftentimes frightened by all the noise and commotion. So in a sense, we're giving our pets a reprieve this year, doing them a favor, because a lot of times all that noise is actually quite frightening to them. So I'm going to wish all of you a happy 4th of July. I will be with you next week through Tuesday, and then I will be giving my reports from the National Association and keeping you all informed of what we're doing at the national level. So thank you, folks, and happy 4th of July. Be safe, be cool. And please don't set off any fireworks. It is just not appropriate at this time. Thanks.
Thank you, Commissioner Schrader. Up next, Commissioner Scholl.
Yes, good afternoon, Clackamas County, and happy Freedom from the Mask Day. On housing, Tuesday morning we had a Zoom meeting with Senator Merkley. One of the topics was our housing shortage, the cost of housing here in the state. We know we cannot adequately meet our supportive housing needs by building 300,000 and up per unit apartment complexes in compliance with the current HUD guidelines. Senator Merkley agreed we need to look at efficiency units that are affordable and can provide us a greater chance to meet those supportive housing needs. I look forward to hearing more from Senator Merkley on that and working here in the county to work on the same idea. We need to think outside the box, and we need to do it now. On nonprofit organizations' support to the residents of this county, I want to thank you all who work for nonprofits in the county, who provided relief from the heat for those people in need during this last week. You saved lives, no doubt, and thank you for the compassion you show throughout the year. I would also like to thank the American Medical Rescue here in the county for going the extra mile to provide transportation to those people who needed it this last week. AMR's service to the people of this county is most appreciated. On community planning organizations, if I have not got out to attend one of your CPO meetings yet, I want to do so as soon as possible. Caroline Hill will be coordinating with you, and I look forward to hearing your issues and ideas. Or you can just contact me at mshaw@clackamas.us. On the small grants program, it starts today, 1 July. If your organization has applied in the past, make sure you apply again. If you are new to the program, call our small grants program coordinator, Carolyn Hill, at 503-655-8261, and she will answer your questions. On the opioid problem, let's keep on the offensive in battling this problem in the county. Education is step one. As I mentioned last week, on the Clackamas County homepage at the bottom is an informational briefing on how to identify these dangerous drugs and how to help those who are affected by the opioid epidemic. Take action today. Our county health clinics offer assistance as easy as a phone call. Also, our county nonprofits can often help as well. On the comment from the speaker today about the liaison duties, if all I need to do is ask to get them back, consider it done. I like being a liaison, and I really enjoy that part of my duties. On social media, regarding the caller who commented on some social media posts, I'm not responsible for the thousands of people who contact me on social media. And on that same caller's website, you'll find partisan rhetoric and many objectionable comments, to include some vicious and mean-spirited comments. So I keep my social media civilized and respectful. And finally, on the 4th of July, it's regrettable that the heat situation will eliminate the use of fireworks this year. But I know that common sense and a focus on fire prevention will prevail. We can all still have a great time on Independence Day. This Sunday, we remember the bravery required by those American patriots who, on the 4th of July, 1776, bravely committed their lives to the Declaration of Independence, the document that started the process to secure our liberty and freedom from tyranny. The price of freedom has not changed. It is a responsibility of each of us to work to safeguard that freedom. Freedom is not free. And I wish every resident of Clackamas County a fun and safe Independence Day, and God bless you all. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Shull. Commissioner Fischer, you're up.
Yeah, thank you, Chair Smith. This is a really remarkable day with all of the issues that we are dealing with. And I think of 4th of July's, the years past as a commissioner, and, taking a walk in the Canby Parade, doing other events all around the county, going to the Buckaroo, watching the fireworks. There were multiple 4th of Julys where you go from watching the guys climb the trees at the Timber Festival in Estacada, out to Malala, out to Jeff Goodman has an event at his home every 4th of July. There are so many memories of all of the activities that we've done. So today, it's remarkable. We are sitting here with our COVID restrictions lifted, right? We have our COVID restrictions lifted. But at the same time, we are still limited in what we are able to do for our 4th of July celebrations, which really brings us back to what does it mean to be an American? Well, it means that we value our democracy, we value our ability to engage with our government, we value our freedom, we value our responsibilities, we value our liberties, and we celebrate this land, our culture, our history, and reflect and embrace all that it is to be American, which is pretty awesome, and we can really celebrate that this year. I really appreciate this commission. July 1st was the beginning of the implementation of our supportive housing services local implementation plan. We voted on Tuesday to move forward. I am so thankful for the commitment of this board and continue to work with our staff and continue to hear from nonprofits to look at all possible avenues and options that are available to us to best implement the plan that was approved, not only by this commission, but by Metro Oversight Committee and Metro Council. So we have lots of work to do, but that's a good way to start July 1st, which is today. Pretty amazing. So thank you, colleagues, and more to come on that. Thank you, Commissioner Savas and Commissioner Schrader, for being part of looking at doing the hard work of digging down deep, and we are in this journey together. Appreciate it very much.
Thank you, Commissioner Fischer. Appreciate that. Commissioner Savas, you're up next.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Commissioner Fischer, for recognizing the work. Didn't have a chance to expand on that on Tuesday. I want to just convey my gratitude to Commissioner Schrader as well for her hard work, both on Tuesday and even yesterday in our meeting with the Willamette Falls Legacy Project Group. There's certainly a lot of excitement, I think, currently with the fact that July 1st, the restrictions have been lifted. It's a time for us to, move towards some kind of normalization. And I also appreciate the fact that the technology, Zoom and all these other platforms have provided for us an opportunity to still stay connected, but it's certainly not as valuable and effective as the one-on-one meetings we've had or community meetings. There's something lost, with that. And it was expressed yesterday when we were talking with some of our Native Americans that the value of being in person is quite significant and far more, I think, more effective. And when I think about some of the things we discussed over the difficult items we discussed over these last 16 months, most especially the last 6, a lot of it has really been, virtual, electronic. It hasn't been very much in person. To my community that I live in a discussion in a matter that we discussed here a couple of weeks ago, with regard to the Park Avenue project and the other communities, it's really been, the impediment has really been our ability to communicate and be in the room. And I'm hoping that they can come back together and have those in-person meetings and work through that. I'm really optimistic that we can actually get to a good place in that. Very similarly, the same thing I expressed yesterday with the Willamette Falls Legacy Project. There's a number of things that we could do, I think, do better by being in person. With our nonprofits, with everyone providing, what our CPOs have been doing, and some of them being handicapped and not having the willingness to meet, or the ability to meet due to poor connections in the rural areas. There's just so much that a lot of people are doing, but we're not able to do it as effectively as we can now. So I just ask everyone involved that maybe have lost some interest or are somewhat discouraged that we can get back together. I find it energizing. I don't know about you all, but in some of these opportunities to meet with people face-to-face in person, it's very energizing to have that social piece back up and clear up any misunderstandings and celebrate our successes. So I am certainly encouraged by all of that. With regard to the 4th of July, it's a great opportunity to celebrate our independence. I hope everyone does that safely. It's not so much the heat, it's the dry conditions that we have that have been exacerbated by the heat. So, for those, protect your property, look at your property, look at something that may be flammable or, and perhaps getting some advice from your local fire officials on what you can do to protect your property in the event of something happening. But just be extra cautious and enjoy the 4th of July and have a safe weekend.
Thank you, Commissioner Savas. In keeping with our economic resolution today, this week I attended a public officials briefing on the employment status from the Employment Department State Director. And as we get back to our pre-COVID activities, the Employment Department also will be making adjustments. For instance, as of September 4th, the federal COVID payments, unemployment checks that people are getting will end. And I do think that's been a barrier for our businesses getting back to hiring people. He made the point that we are probably in a COVID recession, and the labor market is tight right now. There's not a lot of people available for work, but he says that is the normal process coming out of recession. And I was relieved to hear that, because a lot of our businesses, especially in the restaurant and hospitality areas, are having trouble finding people. And evidently those people have left those jobs and sought other jobs that were open. So we need to restore those jobs. And one of the ways that the State Employment Department is going to do that is, first of all, they're open. As of next week, their offices will be open. You have to make an appointment online, but 2 weeks after that, you can just drop in, as they too are transitioning back to offering full services. You will return to having to apply for jobs, submitting 2 applications per week in order to get benefits. That was gone during COVID. And also, you have to register on their system so they can try to match your skills with an employer's skills and or possibly offer training to get back to work. I think that is wholly important in order for us, especially in Clackamas County, to return to employment and help our businesses. Yesterday, I was invited by the governor to attend her Open Oregon ceremony at Providence Park with many other people from the region, from the state. She had many speakers, and it was very interesting to me to see who was in attendance. I was grateful it was cloudy, because we were sitting right on the field in the stadium seating, which was fun, but it was cool. We had a lot of speakers. We had 2 of the soccer players come from both the men's and the women's team, and the women Timbers, and the other team is called
Thorns.
Thorns. Dang, I got to remember that. They were quite cute, by the way. They were the best speakers of everybody. And then the Governor Brown finished with her comments, and she was quite emotional on her reopening. And it's been, I believe, traumatic for her as well. We may not have always agreed with what she did, but she did what she did. She did call out county commissioners and city officials are the ones who did the heavy lifting through managing through COVID. And she acknowledged us, and then she clapped voraciously about our participation and work in helping get through COVID, and that was very heartfelt to me. Afterwards, people mingled, they had refreshments. People were so happy because nobody was wearing a mask, and I did talk to her privately afterwards, and we had very good conversation about moving our county forward, which she is dedicated to doing. It's pleased as punch to hear that. So we're in a new era, people. So let's go out, let's be prosperous, have fun, and respectful to all. And this meeting has ended.